Hi everybody, so this is part 3. We so far have imported our sprites and we've cut them up, given them names, and we have started to create our little animation cycles. So we have right walk, left walk, and we have an idle animation for when the character is standing to the right and also standing to the left. So what we're going to do now, we must create linkage between these animations. So at the moment they are 4 separate animation cycles. What we need to do is we actually need to inform Unity that they have linkage to one another. So to do that we need to open up the Animator window, and the Animator window is an extension of the animation window. So to open it up we go to Window and then click Animator. As we can see, what it does, the animator automatically opens in the scene view. I generally wouldn't have it there. What I would normally do is drag that window out and drop it into the project browser, because I've not got a lot of assets in the project browser, so I don't need that to be extended all the way across the bottom of the screen. So if I just adjust it, what we can do then is when we're in a scene view or when we're in a game view, and when we play the game to test it out once we've created linkage, we need to be able to see the animator so we can see a visual representation of how the animations are linking to see if they're linking correctly. So if I select my character from the hierarchy window and just move that up a bit, when we look in the animator window here, we can see that we have 4 animation cycles. So these are the animation cycles that we have created. So we have right walk, we have left walk, we have idle right, and we have idle left. So at the moment you can see the right walk animation is highlighted in orange. What this means is that this is the default animation. We wouldn't want a right walk as a default animation, because that means when we start to play the game or test it out, the initial walk cycle will be walking right. The character won't be moving anywhere, but it will be walking on the spot, and that's a bit odd. So what we're going to do is we are going to set the idle right animation as a default. So when we start to test this, the idle right will be the default animation. So we right click on it and we get a little drop down menu and we just click set as default. So that's now orange. When it's highlighted orange, that is representing to you that is the default animation. So the next thing we need to do is create transitions. So these transitions are just basically linkage between each animation. So to do this, we must right click on any animation, and in the drop down menu we are presented with the list and we need to click make transition. When we do that, you can see I am presented with a little arrow and I can drag that to different animations. As it's an idle right facing animation, we need to create linkage from that to the right walk, and we need to create linkage from the right walk back to the idle right. We need to do exactly the same with the idle left. We need to make a transition to the left walk, and we need to make a transition from the left walk back to idle left. So when we click play, we can't see anything happening at the moment. And that is because although we have created some linkage, there isn't any script in there and there's no input controls or anything. So at the moment we don't see anything within the game view. So I think there might also be an issue with the way the camera is set up. So in the scene view, when we're working in a 2D format, we don't generally work on the x-axis, do we? As we've discussed before, we only work on an x-axis, which is right to left, and a y-axis, which is up and down or vertical. In the scene view window, there is a little button that says 2D. If we press that, we are given a representation of what our game would look like in 3D space. And as you can see, when we look in the little camera view window there, our sprite is not being displayed. So I fear that our camera is set up wrong and not picking it up. So with the camera selected, if we just click on the Z-axis, which is the blue gizmo, and move it, as you can see, when we do that, the character actually appears in the game view now. So when we press play, we can just see the character walking to the right. He plays the idle right animation and then he walks to the right. So that's showing that our linkage between the animations is working alright, because when we press play, you can see the blue bar in right and the blue bar in right walk. So that is showing that the linkage is there and that it's working. So what we need to do once that linkage is working, we need to set these up for code. And first we need to create 2 more transitions. So we need to tell the editor that when we are in an idle left position, when the input controls say that the animation walks right, we need it to play the right walk, so we create a transition there. And we also need that transition from idle right to walk left. So that is going to be, if you're moving a character right across the screen, when you stop moving him, it will play the idle right animation. And then as soon as you start to move the character left, it will play the left walk animation. So at the moment, when I press play, you can see that's doing something a little odd. All it's doing is still only playing the idle right and the right walk, and that's because we need to define a parameter. So we did discuss this more in lesson, and what we need to do, we need to add a parameter that we can access via code. So where it says parameters in the bottom left corner of the Animator window, if you click the plus sign, and we need to add a float parameter. What a float parameter will do, it will allow us to detect the speed of the character container when it's moving right or left, and that's how we're going to tell Unity to change the animation cycles. So first of all, we're going to look at the transitions from idle right to right walk. So the arrow that is going from idle right to right walk is this one here. When you click on that, it is highlighted blue, and we are presented with some options in our inspector window. So the condition at the moment is set to exit time. So when we were pressing play, if you remember, it played the idle animation, then the right walk, then the idle right, then the right walk. What it's doing with the exit time condition set up, that is set to 1 second. So what it does, it plays 1 cycle of the idle right, then 1 cycle of the right walk, and it will continue to do so as those 2 are linked. But we need to set up our speed parameter, which we've just done in the animation, in the Animator window. So in conditions, we click in that box and we have speed. So we're presented with more options. In the box next to that, we are presented with greater with or less than. So we need to tell Unity that when the character container is moving at a given speed, it must play the right walk animation. So we set that to greater than 0.1. What that's going to do, as soon as it detects a movement of greater than 0.1, it will play the right walk animation. The linkage back from right walk to idle right needs to be set to speed of less than 0.1. So what that will do, when it detects a movement of less than 0.1, it will play the idle animation. So we're going to do the same from idle left to left walk. So the arrow there, that goes from idle left to left walk. We need to change the speed condition to greater than 0.1. And the arrow back from left walk to idle left needs to be set to a speed of less than 0.1. So when we've done that, when we press play, as you can see, it's doing something a little bit odd. It's playing the idle right animation and then it's playing the idle left animation. So what it's doing, because there's linkage all the way around these 4 animations and Unity is not detecting any movement, it's just playing those 2, and that's because the transition between idle right and left walk is set to exit time. That needs to be set to speed as well, and the transition from idle left to right walk is also set to exit time. So when we press play now, all it will do is continue to play the idle right animation, and that is because the character container is not moving at any speed, so those transitions are right for the moment. And what we're going to do now is bring in some code. So as you can see, I've set up a folder there for C# script, and I'm going to initialize a new script. So anywhere within the asset window where it says this folder is empty, I need to right click and go to create and click on C# script. That will bring the script up there for me, and I just need to name that. So I'm going to name that walk. You need to be very careful what you name in this piece of script, as if you look over the right hand side, the public class in the code is set to public class walk. We have named, or I have named my script walk with a small w. So when I'm writing a piece of code, I must make sure that I also call the public class walk and spell it in exactly the same way. If I don't, it won't be able to access the given class that we've set up. So now that's done, I just need to input some code. So I'm going to double click on the C# window there, and that will load up Unity MonoDevelop. While that's loading, I'm just going to explain to you, on the week 4 on Blackboard, which I'm navigating to now, I actually provided you with a piece of code. So if you look there, C# character script, I'm just going to download that, and that's downloaded. So with that downloaded, I'm just going to navigate to my downloads. Obviously this will look different. That's just because you are in Windows, or I'm presuming most of you are in Windows, and I am in macOS. So once that's done, I've downloaded that. I need to delete every piece of code within there. So that's gone, and I'm going to navigate to the Word document that I provided for you guys, and I'm going to select it all. I'm going to cut that using Ctrl and X, and then I'm going to paste that into the MonoDevelop window using Ctrl and V. So I'm not going to actually run into what any of this code means at the minute. We covered this in week 5, which was this week. I have put up some tutorials and some help on Blackboard for you. So if you go to week 5, Understanding C#, you will see in there that I have provided you with some web links to beginner scripting and some Unity documentation. And I have also provided you with a Unity C# guidance notes document. So what that document is, it just starts to break down some of this code and explain what it means. As I say, we're not going to do this in this video, but I would expect you to download that document so you can start to break down this code if you missed this week's session. So once I've inputted that code, what I need to do is build it. So with the MonoDevelop window open, I go to the top bar and click Build, and then Build All. Once that's built, you can see in this window here, we have been notified that the build is successful. So that means it's built correctly, there's no errors in that code. And what I now need to do is place this code onto my character. So I select my character from the hierarchy, and in the inspector I'm provided with options. I need to go to Add Component, then Script, and then my walk script will be in there. So if I click on that, the walk script is actually now on my character. So when I press play, you can see it plays the idle animation. In the code, the keys for moving the character were set up to A and D on the keyboard. So when I press D, it walks to the right and he plays the right animation. And when I press A, he is moving to the left. The animation is not being played, and he's flipped in the wrong way. So we did have these errors in the class this week, and in the next part of the video we're going to look at the animation linkage again to make sure it's set up correct, and we're going to start to deconstruct the code. So I will see you in part 4.